whoops. I just hit it.
Yeah, and Long, do you see the numbers going up in the little thing?
Yeah, everything, the little blue lines going back.
That's
we're on.
perfect.
Okay.
It doesn't work, it's your fault.
Oh,
Here's a copy of the,
Paul, you know.
here's a copy of the letter with the list to go over.
Thank you.
That's nice. I gotta get going, I got a meeting tonight.
You're late.
You come in a little close.
Well, did you start that thing?
Yeah, it's going.
Okay. And it's 7 o'clock, so we might as well at least get started. I'd like to call to order a special meeting of the Greenland Selectmen here on May 7th, 2018. With a call to roll, starting to my right.
Vaughn Morgan.
Chester Duraki.
Paul Sanderson.
Jim Rolston. Chip Huzzy.
Okay, we're meeting tonight with Paul Hayden and members of the Rec Committee to discuss some issues around rec, to hear from them and see how we can facilitate and make things a little bit better. And I guess we have in front of us a letter that came from the Recreation Committee with some things to do
Last year.
okay? And so this is a start. So I think for us, we're primarily in a listening mode, so I'd like to either hear from the Rec Committee or Paul, whoever'd like to talk first.
Okay.
And could you just say your name for the
Sure,
record?
Steve Sargent.
Thanks, yeah.
On the Rec Committee for around 6 years now. My term just expired, I think, back in March. I've not renewed or requested the put on again. So I thought you guys were going to be asking me questions, so I'm going to be prepared to talk about this. But if you guys want me to give you the overview anyway, and Paul, feel free to
An
jump
overview would
in.
be great, because it's
And,
been a long time since we've been around the program.
Yeah, so I think this is something, you know, with just history, and I know a lot of you guys have been around for a long time, but Pafford ran the rec for a long, long time. And many of us on the committee really didn't have, I would say, you know, really good understanding of what he did. He did an unbelievable amount of work on a great many things. And we were there and along for the ride, I guess, in a sense. I think when Pafford left, you know, we started, I think, as a committee, really starting to understand some of you know, what the committee and other issues out there relative to our programs. And some of those are maintenance, and trying to understand what we need to do. What was the town responsible for? You know, I'm not sure any of this was ever written down. It was always something that started back in, you know, 10 years ago, 12 years ago, and there's certain guys that may have known about it and what the agreement was, but none of that is really apparent, and unfortunately, and there's nothing defined. So for the rec committee and our programs, it was really uncertain to us as to what the town could do to support, if anything, and we need to understand that. We need to understand, you know, what are the capabilities, what are the responsibilities, and this last year, I think it was like last March. I'm sorry, I'm not right. Last, I can't. I think Matt Glado and I sat down trying to summarize more or less what we felt was at least a basic starting point for what we felt was necessary for some maintenance to work with our programs. And so we developed this list, and the letter yourselves, I'm sure you guys all read it at one point in time, as far as you know, what we felt was recommended. Key maintenance items. I think it was relatively simple. And you know, as far as our fields, including, I think we included like Carrasco, Caswell, and Maloney. We discussed, we mentioned some things with tennis courts in here too. So I mean, that was really it. So the point of this was to kick this thing off and really get an understanding and hoping that the selectmen would have, you know, and I don't know who, and Paul and, you know, how he works on his end, and we don't understand that necessarily. You know, and trying to get some, I guess, advisory information from the selectmen as to what we should be able to anticipate and count on when it comes to this stuff. If it's nothing, that's great, tell us what it is, but there's a certain amount of maintenance I think that we feel is necessary to keep our facilities in a safe and playable condition. And that's what we were trying to do here, so we're just trying to define it, you know, really. What is it?
Okay, sure. You want to start?
Do you know, has anybody with your committee read the RSAs regarding the Recreation Committee?
We've had RSAs, we've just, as far as how we're developed and how we're established and stuff like that.
Well, I guess, you know, one of the things I always encourage any committee or any group that has anything to do with the town is to get a copy of what they call Knowing the Territory.
Sure.
Have you ever heard of that?
I have not.
Okay. I encourage Karen to distribute this to the heads of the committees because this is a wealth of information. It's a very good book to read to show you where your foundation starts. All right. And from there, once you know those, and it's not complicated, we make it very simple. But once you know those basics, I think you can reach out from there to Paul, to the selectmen, and that type of thing. So I highly recommend that.
Yeah, I'll pick one up.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to start from that.
Sure. The other thing is sort of the way that the rec committee's budget is built, because as you know, it has two different parts. There's the appropriation that comes each year that's in the $30,000 range. I can't remember exactly how much. And then you have your recreation revolving fund. And so the appropriation from the town, that $30,000, that's designed really to take care of capital items, to take care of the fields, the things that they need. And the revolving fund is designed to be money that's collected from users, parents usually, and that's to take care of the variable expenses that you have. Because if you were budgeting, you have no idea exactly how many kids are going to sign up for basketball or soccer or anything like that. And by collecting those user fees, putting them in a revolving fund, you're able to buy exactly the uniforms you need, the balls and other supplies, the referee services, all of those variable things that we can't tell exactly how many you need. So that's really the way the budget is built. So that when it comes from the town, we're expecting your revolving fund to carry the operation of your program.
It does. And then some.
Oh, yeah.
We could spend more. And I think there's been, you can certainly jump in. I mean, I think there's been some, I've been very conservative about the way we spend our funds over time.
Well, I know also that for a while there was a thought that it was kind of like a savings account for the future, but it really isn't.
Well, I think that what's happened over time, and you know, there's been an interest in trying to do some things to improve the recreation facilities.
Yeah.
And so, and that's, I think in this, you know, there's a playground over at Caswell. That was, and I wasn't part of that, but I mean, when I was coming in, was built with recreation funds. And I think when, you know, there was interest in us doing some things over at Maloney, there was a lot of money that was both donated and saved for the purpose of trying to do some things to make some improvements over there too. So, you know, $30,000 is frankly surprising to me because I'm not even aware of that. That we even had access to that sort of money to be able to maintain our fields, because frankly what's going on and what has gone on is that, you know, our fields, and I'll use Caswell as an example, it could use quite a fair amount. And that field has declined in condition, and it requires some regular maintenance. And this is in a playable, safe condition. And over time, what happens is from raking and various other maintenance, that happens to this thing. We try to encourage all the programs like the Little League and our own baseball program for these guys and teach these guys how to rake them properly, but it doesn't always happen. And then over time, it grows in. It makes some very, abrupt changes in the edge of turf and creates, things that are basically hazardous. And so a number of years ago, I think that was one of our first shots when we really started to think hard about some of the maintenance, was that, and this was led by Matt Gladden at the time, and he used the field pretty regularly with baseball, and that we needed to do something about it. And we had some proposals. We got a proposal from, I think it was Fernandez, to do a complete reconstruction of that infield. This is about where it was at. And that dollar amount, I believe, was in the vicinity of like $20,000 what he gave us. And that would have completely skinned the whole thing up and started over. We eventually decided something had to be done. There was a lot of money. There was some uncertainty as far as bidding it because it was over a certain dollar amount. I think at the time we believed it was $5,000 that had to go. We had to bid the project out. It became complicated.
The only thing I want to stop you on.
Well, let me just finish for a second.
Sure.
Is that, so then we said, hey, let's put a Band-Aid on this thing, and we hired him for a certain amount of money, and it was probably like less than $5,000 for him to come and repair it. And to a point. Now it's still progressing, and this happens all our fields. It's not just that. The softball field, we replaced the infield a number of years ago because that got to a point where we just couldn't. It was barely playable.
There are issues with fences, if I remember correctly, and
Yeah.
I'm a soccer person, so the fencing isn't so much, but the posts coming up out of the ground. And I know Crasco is thinking from the soccer perspective.
We have fence issues. I mean, I think that a
And those
number
are
of years ago,
safety.
we showed up in softball in the spring, and then and I noticed there's an easement in Maloney that provides for the gas company to get out and back. Now, what happens during the wintertime, this is a maintenance issue.
Yeah.
And this is something we deal with, is that, it's also a safety issue, is that what happens all winter long is that road's maintained by the gas company. So they come in here and plow this thing. They don't really have a whole lot of regard to our fences, with our fences and the way they're doing things. So we have snow being plowed up against them, and they were pulled apart, I think. That's a safety issue. It's right along there. We've got rocks that are being pushed in, the way that the snow's being piled, amongst other things. So I mean, that's some of the stuff we're dealing with, and is that something the town should be dealing with? Should the town be
What I was going to
controlling
say is,
fixing the fences?
when you identify things like that, what you should do is be coming in and working with us, because we may have the ability within the budget to deal with something. Also, if it's something that's going to be larger than what we can deal with, we create a warrant article that goes on the ballot for the town to vote.
Right.
And
And I can give you just a little brief on what's in the budget and how we
Yeah.
arrived at the budget for this year. Because I usually sit down with the chairman each year and say,
Yeah, sure.
what do you want, what do you need? And every year we basically budget around 10,000 for capital improvement. And they pick different things. So this year we have $12,000 in there. She wanted to replace or do a lot of fencing at Maloney Field.
Right.
1 year, it's always been different. It's either been what?
That pass?
Yeah.
All right, so
So
we
that's
have-
money that's here. So what we budget is, we budget about $8,100 for one person to help Paul during the summer.
Yeah.
With all this field maintenance stuff. This is only the second year of that program. The water, which is nothing. $3,000 we do for the contracted services, the fertilization, grub control, irrigation, any electrical work we need. That's budgeted in. We've got $12,000 for the Maloney Field fencing this year, $1,500 for the porta potties, another $4,500 for groundskeeping, which is purchase of infield mix, fertilizing, weed control, poison ivy for all the fields. And then we have $1,000 for damages to fields, and that's our equipment insurance deductible, is $1,000.
And that's great,
Yeah.
and maybe Sharon has a full understanding of it now,
Yeah.
and what we have available to us.
Yeah.
So my first question is going to be you, is who's responsible for spending that, and how?
Yeah, we get the bills
So-
in,
So
$1,500
what I'm
is
getting
for the
at,
electric.
Who initiates that? Who initiates, like, identifying that there's a problem?
We have the bill, just let us know.
And this is what I'm getting at, this is the fundamental issue here, and that what we're getting at is like,
Let's take the Maloney fencing as an example.
Yep.
Okay? In that case, we know about that is an issue. We certainly would work with your committee, but Paul probably would be the person who would get the various bids and have you review them. And if you thought that was the service that you wanted, then we would contract it through here because we have the ability to expend the funds.
Right.
And then work with you to get it installed.
and that's great. I guess what I'm getting at is, that, I mean, that's one thing, that's a very easily identifiable thing, because we came up with what we believe, and part of that was conceived by issues that we've been having out there with parking on the fields.
Sure.
And that, getting access to the field and being locked and unlocked, and, cars being able to travel through there and make the damage that just like the fencing configuration we have out. This is just a little history on that. This isn't really the fundamental discussion point. This is something that we've identified as being a huge improvement out
Right,
there.
fences up, fences
So
down, fence here,
that's
fence
an
there.
easy one. So what we're getting at here with this is more so of, is there inspection? Who's doing this stuff? I mean, you're saying, hey, we'll work with you to get it done. Okay, so
So
you're
when
almost.
it comes to managing the contract,
Right, or not with managing the contract, but what I'm getting at is like, and what we're getting at is like, well, all right, there's a certain amount of maintenance that needs to be done in the field, or there's a certain amount of inspection that should be done annually, for fences, like in springtime or something like that, like there's some fence damage that happens.
Week to week or season to season.
okay,
Who's
And we don't want to
looking at those?
assume that
Here's
it's
the
Paul,
other
that's
reality.
not fair.
here's the other reality. Paul is one person.
Well, that's why we're
And
coming to
we're
you
not,
guys.
we're not picking on Paul.
No, no.
The idea here is, we're trying to understand, like, are you saying that it's the rec committee's responsibility to go out and inspect all the fields and identify all the maintenance that needs to be done on it?
That would,
That's what I'm getting at. That's what
that
we're
would
trying
be
to find
that
out.
would be a tremendous help.
Right, I don't think that
you saying?
responsibility has ever been given to anybody.
No, it probably has. Well, if I go back 30 years ago when there was no Paul at all,
Right,
what would happen is the parents would go out and we'd collect whatever we could for equipment or materials or whatever, and we'd bang whatever we could together, and just trying to have people not get hurt. That
For perspective though, 30 years ago, how big was the rec program? I mean, I've only been around for the last 6, and I know in my time,
it's actually about the same.
6 years ago, it wasn't this big or involved. So unless there was a real dip and then come back up,
And I think there might have been.
okay. That's-
Because we dealt with dozens and dozens of kids back then. But again, I'm not expecting it to be 30 years ago. The number of eyes and ears that you might be able to put onto something to help us identify would be an extreme help.
The number of eyes and ears are the
And
committee.
this is,
does it.
I mean,
So,
And
that's great. What I'm getting at though is that, is that what you're suggesting is this committee, are you guys saying it's the rec's responsibility to inspect all the maintenance facilities and be responsible, or is there any part of the town that's responsible for this list? Are you gonna go around?
it would be extremely helpful if you could help in identifying the issues.
We do, and we
Okay.
certainly do. That's
And then-
how,
I'd like to say
and let me just,
Sure.
Present day, no 30 years ago. Present day, we have a professional in a position that takes care of the maintenance.
Yeah.
Rec committee, not necessarily professionals in that industry. They're great at getting the kids to play games. They're great at setting their schedules. That's not necessarily their job. I don't feel it's their responsibility at all. That's my feeling.
Well, and the other thing I think we also need to consider.
30 years ago, you didn't have a paid position. Now you do. That's the
Oh, no,
difference.
we
Period.
didn't. 30 years ago.
I'm done with 30 years ago. 30 years ago was gone. Today.
Fair enough, but
Thank you.
listen to another issue. We have one person. He's also the only person that deals with public safety on the side of the roads. He's also the only person that deals with the transfer station. He's also the only
Every
person.
department's understaffed.
Well,
That's a
no,
whole nother.
I'm just
game.
saying, he's also the only person that deals with all of our other town properties. And so
Maybe
therefore,
that's the problem.
it probably is.
Well,
and
only took about 60 months to get here.
Well, no, I'd like to chime in too. To me, common sense would say the rec department is running the programs. They're gonna be the first ones to notice if there's a fence that's damaged.
Yeah, we do, we do.
And then-
We've emailed in the past, and that's what I'm getting at, is, we're not trying to argue over we're just trying to understand. We're trying to understand, like, you guys have an opinion, everybody has an opinion here into this thing. when this thing was conceived, well, basically what we felt when we did this is we're showing you a whole that we think is something that we don't understand. If you're saying, you're gonna come back and say, hey, the rec committee is responsible and nobody else is gonna take care of this stuff, then you've done your job, okay? That's all that was asked, all right? We're not trying to point fingers at anybody. We're not trying to create some sort of, tip about anything. It's simply, simply put that we're trying to understand and there's nothing defined. And so I think it's your job, frankly, to identify that, not mine. I mean, we can come to you and say, hey, which we have in the past. I mean, frankly, I've taken pictures of fencing damage and I've sent it along and saying, hey, we got an issue here. This is a safety issue. We need to take care of this. We took the infield out. I went out there on a contract with this guy to come in and do it. But you're banking on volunteers to do this stuff, and there's going to be certain competency of volunteers that may or may not. You just happen to be lucky at this point in time that they're capable of doing it. My time's going to come to an end very soon. It is at an end, and somebody else is going to have to pick this stuff up with limited knowledge. It's like the maintenance of the infields. It takes an understanding on how to deal with this stuff. Like right now, what we do, and again, what is our responsibility as a rec committee? What is the town's responsibility? Is it just mowing the grass? Is there we got buildings out here with I would say Caswell facility over there. There's probably a roofing issue over there right now.
No, that's not.
Did you inspect
Brand
it?
new roof.
Did you just put it on?
Yeah,
When?
last year.
Okay, because then
You got a brand new floor, you got a brand new.
there's at Caswell.
Yeah.
When I went in there this winter to get the equipment, there was water everywhere.
That was because the water heater let go, and now it has a new water tank.
This is on the second floor.
No, you got a brand new roof, it's all shingled, you got a new water tank.
Well, I'm just telling you, I didn't call up on the roof. I'm telling you, I went in there and the second floor was flooded with water.
I'd like to ask you a question real quick, and you don't have to give us an answer today, but is it coming close to the town may start looking at a part-time rec director? Because it was Bob Presco, and it was
My opinion
Patrick.
is this. If you want to ask my opinion, I would say absolutely yes. We're the only town around that doesn't have one for the most part, except for like Kensington, who's probably half the size of us. If you look around the communities around here, tell me a community you don't think that has nobody doing this stuff.
I think it would be
That has another
extremely
higher position.
beneficial to have one point person who was at the town and the rec, because right now we're a conglomeration of volunteers and we're all coming in doing what we can. But like I went over to Stratham coordinating soccer, and oh my lord, the facility they've got for rec, I was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna go back to my bedroom where I put together the soccer rosters. But it would be nice because I think that would provide some continuity with the town and the rec. Also, because as we grow, our town is, I mean, you guys know better than I do, our town is exploding. And so having that really concrete liaison would, I think, be really helpful, actually.
I think it'd be something that would handle the day-to-day stuff.
It would. I think it would. I mean, we have a lot of, and we've confronted a lot of things, and it's not always easy getting to a solution. Like, when we're trying to take payments, for example, and I'm sure we've all been around this one a million times about not having a credit card and checks coming in and taking
It's
from
working
parents.
now.
And we're just volunteers. You know what I mean? When it comes to this stuff, we
Been
got
there,
kids in the
Yeah.
programs, but then when we get in here, we find there's other responsibilities that go beyond us.
When we both started, everything was in Brian Pafford's head. And he finally, God bless him, he was finally able to step away, and we're still going, wait, Paff did that. What's that about? And so having a
It is a real problem when someone running something keeps it all in the head, because if something happens,
You knew
they
all of it.
leave, or they get too much going on, it either doesn't get done, or they leave, nobody knows what's to be done.
Right, and Ryan inherited it from Bob Krasko.
And it was
did the
probably
same
the same
thing.
thing.
All there.
So that's your idea, I think, is a fantastic one, actually, because it would also force a lot of this stuff to be codified, I guess, maybe? I don't know if that's the right word, but like you said, infield mix is budgeted.
Mhm.
Don't we always,
We
Do that in our budget too?
This is the thing, is like,
Every-
this is the stuff we just don't understand.
So
stuff.
that's why we
And this
didn't
is
know.
where, like, it takes a while, these are 3-year terms, and by the time you start and you come up to your, whatever, you're in your first term, maybe you start to understand how things work, in a sense. And then, some of us will be dedicated enough to come on for another 3-year term.
Once Ian phases out, I don't know.
And that's the thing, is a lot of people will phase out after their kids cycle through the program. When they're done, they've done their time. You know, there's other things going on that
Well, and all of us who are on the
then you lose that
committee,
knowledge.
I mean, we do the committee, but we're also coaching a minimum of 2 teams you know, like, we're all doing all of it.
It's, you know, we have
So by the
jobs,
time
you
we're
know,
done.
just like everybody else, and you know, it's not easy. You mentioned, well, you know, we used to do it this way, where we'd have, you know, an effort coming in. Well, and we try. We do that sometimes. We hold these things. We have a cleanup day. They come out. That's great. That's one day. So they get a field ready. Maybe in the springtime, we'll weed the thing. I used to come out here when I first started and weed whatever edge and stuff, and we do it. But it takes more than that. There's more than that sort of maintenance that goes along with these things. And then we lease our fields. We have you know, we have a little league over here. We have a lacrosse over there. We have, you know, men's softball coming in somewhere else. These guys pay money, you know, and you know that's a lot of burden for somebody to take on. To like Matt Gladu being a field coordinator for that for quite a while. I mean, and you're asking now somebody who's a volunteer to lease out fields and put up contracts for these guys. And you know, is the money that's coming in, is that money that's sufficient to take care of the maintenance for what the damage or whatever wear and tear on things that they're doing? I don't know. You know, I mean that's
And that
a
money,
question that theoretically should be. I mean, it
right,
should be
that money
revenue.
goes into your revolving fund.
And does that, so if it comes from a revolving
Yes.
fund,
Yeah.
you know, now are we using that for maintenance? And we have in the last couple of years, like last year, and this year, for instance, this year right now, we've brought somebody in to try to get the fields, you know, back into shape. And there's a certain amount of stuff has to be done that's beyond, you know, a parent effort that we can't do. I mean, there's a certain amount of leveling that needs to be done, or it makes it difficult to play on. There's, you know, at the end of these seasons, for instance, you know, whenever we have, I'm not going to pick up soccer, but lacrosse, I mean, they put the goal in one spot, the weather, you know, next thing you know, you got this giant patch of, you know, no turf left anymore. Well, you know, who's
And that's-
responsible for going out there and fixing that?
But that's the pick on soccer, when I said Crasco Field is sinking, like we've run
Well, you got
practices.
some
with
big,
It's,
yeah.
it's going down there, and so
I think
whoever's
that's actually
practicing at
probably
that end of the
defensiveness.
field.
Tipping over.
Well, the whole field is a sinkhole,
Yeah.
and you're playing in like 2 or 3 inches of mud by the latter half of the season, which is fun for the kids, I guess, but it's
Yeah.
But
changes the game a little.
Kids, I come in, make some money doing a commercial.
Because you run the risk of torn ankles and long knees
Right.
and.
But that field is on a swamp.
Right, so, and then, I'm the soccer coordinator. Paul mows my fields, I line the fields, and I don't know what else I'm supposed to be doing. So that's part of it, is like, what,
Right.
I don't ever want to be like, oh, that's Paul's job, that's not fair. Because like you said, he's one guy.
Yeah.
And so that's, as a committee, we're trying to figure out, like, what are we doing without stepping on Paul's toes? What is Paul doing without assuming he's doing stuff?
Well, one of the
like-
things I've stressed is I can't guarantee anything. No, like on a certain day, because if something happens in town,
Right.
I'm there.
You know you're not always mowing Cresco on Wednesday mornings at 9 o'clock.
Right.
Because you never know.
It's raining that Wednesday or whatever.
Well,
Yeah.
it's not that, if I say, okay, I'll do it on this day, I gotta close the road down. Well,
Yeah,
if
stuff
a tree
happens.
goes down on a road, that
Of
takes.
course.
I mean, and that's the hard, I can never guarantee a time.
No, and then we're more looking for, like, we know you mow. That, right, I'm assuming?
Yeah.
That's like, I know my soccer field is always at the right height. So that I don't have to worry about. But like a few years ago, a sprinkler went, I was told. I didn't even know about this till after the fact, which is good. And I don't even know which field it is. Do you remember which field it's
No, we
in?
lost it. Out there, it kind of flooded the right center field.
Oh,
Yeah.
right, a
So-
whole water line broke.
Yeah, the
Right.
main line broke.
Right, so, and that's you, but and I didn't even, like I said, I didn't know it till after the fact, but is that, oh my God, Paul, something's happening, there's a
Well-
new swamp.
Well, but if you see that, call me, because then I'll figure out what it is and call the right people.
And then, like, the bleachers, did we replace one of the sets, but not two at Crasco? See, my world is limited to soccer, so I know all the Crascos. But those sheds are creepy. There's like holes in the walls and everything. I don't think it's structural at this point.
No, you're talking the sheet rock.
Yeah,
Yeah, no,
But-
that's not structural.
I don't know,
Well, there's the other shed over here that have the whole, the CMU block.
Well, that's supposed to be torn down and replaced, and was supposed to go out to bid. I'm still waiting for an answer about a scoreboard.
okay,
Right,
so
but
that's
that's
Did you
big
find out about
town,
that
not
scoreboard?
rec.
Right, yep,
So
we're
this is
handling
more
that.
like- What are
No, the rec
they-
committee meeting was canceled last one.
We're happy to
All right.
Yeah.
do, like, if
Will you
you
let
guys
me
are like, no, you guys have to take care of that.
Because that's how we'll have to have the
We don't
roof designed for a scoreboard, that's why.
So, it just, I mean, so we understand, like, as we move this, Paul's gonna mow the grass, we're not mowing the grass.
Right.
All right? I assume that the town is gonna be responsible for any sort of fertilization treatments, anything like that.
It's all contracted.
You've contracted out, we're not doing that.
Right.
So this is where we're, we wanna write this stuff down, maybe this is gonna be something.
Right, yeah, just
somewhere.
go through this list.
So these are the things that we don't know, you know what I mean? Like I've contracted last year, we went out and we got some spraying for mosquitoes. Is mosquito spraying something the town would do?
I've never done,
We've never done mosquitoes because we don't do adult deciding anywhere in the whole town. If there's a positive West Nile or Triple E, our contractor will come in then, and we've done perimeter around all the fields.
And that's because we had many parents who were objecting to any spraying at all.
Right, there's been warrant articles,
I
turning
wanna
it
say
down
2 years ago,
every.
we did a,
Whenever there's a Triple E within a surrounding
Yeah.
town, we'll
Well,
do
I mean,
that.
this go back here, just, has an incredible amount of mosquitoes, it's built on swamp. So, and there's a lot of people out there, day in and day out, for, during soccer season. Not so much in the springtime, not so much in the summertime, once we hit, the same bat, Triple E, whatever season, and in September, late August, when all these things are starting up, I mean, you understand this, these fields between middle school soccer, parents showing up, probably the kindergartens and the first and the second grades, there's literally, I mean, there could be 100 kids out there with parents and everything out at the same time.
Yeah.
And so these are the things, so if you say, all right, well, when we go through this consider a work session, then no, we're not gonna spray. That's gonna be our responsibility, that's what you're saying to us.
Right, and
Well,
clear,
Even then, I can tell you that over the years, many people in town have objected to any spraying at all.
right.
Yeah.
When we
Many
just do
parents.
the biospray stuff, that they're like just doing rub or something, they leave the little sign.
Yeah.
I get calls.
And-
What's on the fields?
you
We have
probably- you
soccer
probably
tomorrow,
have
and
to
our kids won't go on
Yeah.
these fields. I'm like,
See, I get the reverse calls of like, my kid came home eaten alive, when are you gonna do something? When I put bug spray in your soccer bin, I don't spray the.
right, yeah.
But,
But we get both.
Yeah.
They just don't want us to put a
The compromise
chemical on.
position is that you get it sprayed at such a time, and then you have to leave them fallow for a period of time, so that people believe that the stuff has
And there's-
dissipated.
And I agree with you, I mean, that's exactly what it is that there's a certain, when you do some of these things, when you go to other states, for example, if they're at school, they have to put a notice out. They have to post it certain times in advance before they're gonna do this. And they think out, beforehand, like, what's an opportune time to do this? They'll do it over vacations, or breaks, or weekends, or things like that, when they post these things where they have several days.
And-
In the past, we've seen, if it's gonna be fertilized, it's contracted out, they don't care when they do it, they just wanna come out here, spray it, and charge, for your money. But if it happens, 2 hours before there's a game on the field, you're gonna get people complaining.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And that's just being thoughtful about it, and that's gonna be controlled somehow when we do it, but again, we're not responsible for fertilizing, we're not responsible for, if spraying mosquitoes, I would, I'll be the first one to say it, I mean, I fully support spraying mosquitoes, and if a parent doesn't like it, then, maybe we ought to have a vote or something like that, and maybe your kid doesn't play that, I don't know. But when they are spraying, they're only spraying the perimeter, not spraying the fields themselves.
Correct. And also
And
from
so-
personal use, Mosquito Squad has whatever they spray with, like, your babies can go out on it, like
And
we use that at our house.
we've discussed those things with them in the past, like what they use for the stuff, there's two
And that's getting
options.
information out to your groups, so that they understand what the product is, and they understand.
Right, because they'll call me,
But that'll be-
do you have the MSDS form on that? I'm like,
And, in last year, I think we did, I don't remember getting one thing ever came back correct on that whatsoever.
I had parents, they saw the sign and they were like, you guys finally
It's
sprayed?
probably like half the time, probably, obviously it's spraying up. Because it's,
That too.
It's looking at the mosquito, but, all right, so besides that,
That'll be
so
something we can do.
fertilization, mosquito spraying, you're gonna say is gonna be on the rec. And that's something that we should take care of as far as our program is my understanding. I mean, I'm sure like lining fields is Rec's problem. We also work with the middle school at times to, and you especially, I think,
What do we do?
work with the middle school as far as lining
Yes.
fields and stuff like that.
Nicole and I have talked a lot during soccer season.
So there's, there's other things here, like, we got repair damaged turf areas. So what, a lot of times, and the season comes, we're not the only ones using it, meaning rec, we got middle school using programs. The baseball field's used by the middle school over here, the softball field's being used by the middle school over here. I think both fields are used by soccer, and, we play soccer over the middle school in here, right? Or is it just over there we play soccer?
School plays over at Maloney and behind the school. Rec plays here and at Maloney.
It just gets to a point where, I think what I'm driving at here is there's some things here as far as inspection and maintenance that go beyond, I think, what, as a rec committee, really, as a committee, when you say with the foundation of the committee, what is really our foundation here? Our foundation isn't free labor. Our foundation is to act as a committee to run the rec. We get volunteer coaches. We volunteer our time to run the programs themselves. I'm the softball coordinator, soccer coordinator, we have a basketball coordinator. Everybody does something. Everybody has a job. Sharon is
Tries to keep all the pieces
she
together.
tries to keep us all, and also helps with basketball. I mean, these are the things that we do. So some of these things go beyond us. Like if at the end of the season, like I'm not paying attention to what's going on over at Maloney with lacrosse, they're decent to field out. So who's fixing that damage at the end of the season? A lot of times in the past, they've said that, well, somebody mentioned something like, hey, lacrosse, you guys did some damage here, why don't you contribute to fixing this thing? Well, is that something we should be contacting lacrosse? Is that something that, we should be doing in-house as a part of our regular turf maintenance program?
I would think not. I would think instead it's about scheduling so that Paul has a time when he knows those fields are not going to be used and they have to be closed for the repair and closed for time to grow.
And there's certain time periods when you repair things. I mean, this is part of the problem. You know what I mean? It's not an easy thing.
The only thing I know is it's only like a 3-week period.
Well, generally in the summertime, I mean, you've got 2 growing seasons for grass, and I don't know how much you guys know about it, but I mean, you get 2 growing seasons. You got a spring growing season, you got a fall growing season.
We've been mowing 35 weeks a year for our whole life.
And everybody knows that, right? And if you try to fertilize, repair things in the summer, it's just not going to grow well.
No.
Because the grass we're trying to grow around here, cool season grass is not warm weather grass.
Right.
So if we try to do that in the summertime, we'll go out there and try to repair something, we're going to grow weeds. So, in the fall, we're using the fields. I mean, we're back on them. Mostly I would imagine probably right after school starts in September.
Yep.
We're generally off them until then. You might have some time before that, meaning
Usually I have 3 weeks in August.
late
help
August,
you
late
out.
August.
That's
and then-
it, because
and
it
then the only
comes
other-
up school, it's back.
And then the only other time is
It's
really,
usually after
you might have certain fields might have.
field
early
hockey.
spring.
I think usually it's field hockey camp is the last one.
And you might have some time, depending on the field, right around the end of, beginning of June, somewhere around there. Because there's still a little bit of time if you needed to repair some stuff.
Usually June and July at camps.
There are, but some fields, not all fields are used. I mean,
June's not
in
camp.
some repairs, I mean,
School.
there's, depends on the extent, depending on the extent of repairs, things could happen. But again, it's like, it's the type of thing where if it's proactively taken care of, then it's less of an issue. It's going on, it's a bigger issue.
Certainly, you folks are scheduling, and Paul is repairing. You need to give him an opportunity where he can do. And that means closing it down entirely, if that's what's necessary.
And if that's, then I guess we're gonna start talking about having, and this is,
How about
one of our Little League guys is here, but if we do that, then we're gonna start talking about, the outside use of our fields, like lacrosse, for example.
That's true.
I mean, we're gonna start in softball, we're gonna let men's softball play. I mean, these people come in to pay money, and
Well,
we're
and
not
again-
gonna have time for it. Where's the priority? Is the priority our own programs, our middle school?
For a long, long time, citizens have told us the priority is Greenland. And that's why there's an amount of money that's in our regular budget, and that's why your parents pay a certain amount for the services that they obtain. To me, the outside people, not worried about it at all. If they weren't here ever, I couldn't care less.
Well, at least in the
To me,
case
the
of
worst
lacrosse.
mistake we ever made was putting lights on Prasco Field.
And, you know, and just to complicate that whole thing is this, is that, when we say some of these outside programs, we don't run them.
Oh, I
These outside-
understand.
But we do have kids that participate.
An immense number of Greenland kids play lacrosse, but it's
So-
not a rec program.
And it's the same thing with Little League, like that's our Little League. You know, our Little League is fortunate, but we don't run that.
And I'd like you guys to figure out the schedule that is the balance, that allows the reasonable use for all of those good reasons, but also allows the time for the field to be repaired and brought into good condition. And you know best when those times are.
I have a question. Sure. Does the school pay any money or do anything? I mean, they've got a $10 million
No,
budget
Well,
here.
No, but
their
we-
athletic director has about $5 for a budget. It's very small. They take care of the school fields and they also line for soccer and do they do
And
football
we don't
also?
pay for the gym
No.
when we do basketball.
Yeah.
She
So
does,
there's a
just
trade-off.
soccer.
Just the soccer. So she covers, her budget covers the lining of Maloney for soccer and also she takes care of all the school fields.
And the other question I have is, if the gas company is damaging the fence, has anybody notified the gas company to get them to pay for the
Good
damages?
question. I don't know. Is it like calling the plow company when they?
I would personally talk to them.
Do you know which gas
I've
company
talked to the gas- Yeah, I do.
That
I haven't
would be
written
Maine Maritime.
Yeah.
Is that like, that goes to the big,
They're the ones that plow the roads though.
well,
I've never
they,
seen
they
anybody
probably
follow.
contracted, but that access goes to the Maine Maritime big gas
What,
thing.
they must have an inspection area that they go to weekly or something?
Well, they gotta keep them open because they got the regulator station in the back. So you gotta keep access to that for an emergency.
That's the big high pressure line, right?
But they probably have a contractor that does it, that is
But it would
probably
still
insured.
be Maritime's responsibility.
Yeah.
I think it's that they're doing it themselves.
Really?
I've seen the truck.
Are they still located over here, Maritime, or are they out?
I think they're out of there. I don't know, but they got people putting.
They must have numbers on the gate out there to
Yeah, they do.
contact.
Yeah, it certainly, I've spoken with those folks in the past, and just about coordination, access through gates, like they lock the gate, it's supposed to be double locked. Many times it's not, so we can't get access through it, meaning they just take it off and lock it themselves, and they're calling up and say, hey, I need to get in here, and they come out and unlock the gate, or relock it the right way. You know, the gate, again, this is part of the fencing problem that we have, that we talked about, and the funding for, was hopefully we could do something about that, so it's not that big of a deal. And we can get around that possibly with, so, then I guess another one is, the irrigation system startup. And
It's running.
Yep, we
They're
take care
on.
of that.
You guys take care of that, so you guys
Yep.
are responsible for starting up the irrigation system.
It's all contracted.
And, yep, it's all contracted, and I mean, I know last year we had an issue with it because there was a contract issue.
Right.
Well, no.
Yeah.
That guy, at our parts, we couldn't turn it on until Chip,
You know,
thank Chipper, he found them.
Well, we wanted it sooner than, this is April 1st, you were gonna do it May 1st, so when are we gonna, it is on now.
Yeah, it's on.
I contacted you,
So both
we
of them,
wanted
and
it
the
sooner.
infield head is not on over at,
I told him not to turn
Okay.
that on at all.
because we have, as long as we have the quick connect is what we were looking for.
Yeah, last year was a fiasco on that because the company shut down
Mhm.
and just locked everything up.
Oh,
Yeah.
So
We weren't the only ones.
We mean shut down out of business.
Yep, closed the
And
doors.
the water is super important when it comes to maintaining fields. We need to have it, otherwise they get ridiculously hard and it's not safe for kids. So it's a challenge. I mean, some of these maintenance things are not easily overcome, and go beyond us. Part of the problem, and I'll say this, is that, we don't have any, and this is something we could look at as a rec, but we don't have any means to maintain the field. We don't have the equipment. The town has equipment. We don't. I can't get the equipment from here to there, you know what I mean, legally anyway. And we have an infield break, we can't use it. You know, we have to make our own. I made my own, so I can maintain the field, you know what I mean, that comes out of my time, my pocket, to try to do this stuff, and we got them sitting right over here that we're not able to use. So, I mean, that's frustration of part of the rec, is we're trying to maintain these things, we're putting time into these things, and sometimes it's a whole lot easier if we have that stuff and we can't use it. Maybe there's a storage facility over there we need, I don't know. But so water's super important. The sheds, but regularly you said the roof was done Caswell. Have you been upstairs and did you see the water damage?
Mm-hmm.
So you saw the same thing that I saw?
Yeah.
So upstairs, I mean, there was water all over the place. Yeah. I don't know what it was backside.
Just recently?
This was in the springtime.
At the end of the, yeah.
Well, they replaced it last fall.
Yeah, I
Maybe it
think it
was-
was like
really late in the year.
September.
No, it was later. It was
Maybe
very cold.
Okay.
Maybe it was later than that, maybe by the time we were.
No, you guys were all done with the fields when it got done.
And the tennis nets were down.
So that's usually the beginning of August.
October 31st. We try to get the stuff down by Halloween so that we don't have,
Maybe it was just leftover damage from that, I don't know. So when it comes to the buildings, for example, we have a building over here, we got a gaping hole in it. With this gaping block, we have roof issues, obviously.
And there was a warrant article and money set aside to redo.
Right.
The buildings at Maloney Field haven't been painted, I mean, they're all in disrepair,
Okay.
just lack of maintenance.
These are things we're trying to say, like, these buildings shouldn't be, a wreck issue. I mean, buildings we're not gonna go out and say, hey, let's somebody crawl up there and check the roof, nor are we confident people necessarily all the time to be doing that. We do have a building inspector, I would imagine, who can very well walk over and have a lot more competency in some of these things than we do. I would think it would be simply be able to just take a look at it and say yes or no, and, certain things. I mean, some of these sheds not so important, like over at Maloney, we have a simple shed and there's not a whole lot to the thing. But, I mean, these are just some of the issues, the lights. I mean, we never had to do anything with the lights, but, I mean, I assume that's a town issue completely. So you're inspecting the lights on a regular basis, replacing them. And in fact, I presume it's a pretty antiquated system at this point in time, as it seems pretty expensive to use it.
it's very expensive. It's not the lights that are expensive, it's the utility company. If they're used before a certain time of day,
8:30, I think.
8:30 or 8 o'clock, it's like they charge us a huge rate if they get turned on before then.
Which is fine in the summer, but come,
The only
October
time it really
summer
hits us with a
season.
huge bill is the
Right,
soccer
soccer.
jamboree thing. That's the only time that it gets dark too late, too early, and
Yep.
So is it, I mean, these things,
Friday
is
night
it
soccer.
partly, is it just that
Agree.
flick switch on and you blow them, gives $100, or is it partly the demand, what are they charging us?
it's what
For
they
the
charge
kilowatt hour for
us.
that, on a unit rate?
Yeah, so
So-
there's a sign there, and the men's league is usually pretty good about not turning
They
them
changed
on.
their schedule around last year to only 2 games.
Yeah.
They go an extra day and got rid of the 3rd game, so they don't use the lights hardly at all.
Right, and then they let us know by email, light number 2 on this field is out. So
We don't repair the lights until there's so many out.
right, like $3.
It's $1,000
Because of
a day to get the machine here to lift the electrician up to change
But
it.
what is that number? What is how many?
It's like
It's usually
4,
like
3 or 4.
3 or 4 lights if it's like a whole bank. There's like 3 on a bank, so if one is out on it, right, it's okay.
I think we have about 1 that's out right now, and that's it.
Right, but it's like crazy.
So can I get this, so it costs $1,000 to
Yes.
replace 4 lights?
No, for the lift.
They have to
For the
rent.
day.
I know, I understand that.
Yeah.
That's what I'm
And
saying.
the problem is that thing's so heavy, we have to wait till the field's dry or they'll sink.
It's not summer season.
Right, they even tried a fire truck.
Going forward, those lights are at the end of their useful life, aren't they?
I would
I can
think
remember
so.
the fight, and it was 30 years ago. 30 years ago.
Right,
doesn't
we
it?
replaced them to a different kind
You
of,
remember that fight, Sharon?
I don't remember that fight now, but I bet
It was
Bob
pretty-
Krasko remembers.
the poles are original, back in the Mother's Day storm.
A couple of years ago, we had.
I'm gonna say that's probably 5 though now.
But we had to
I think
replace
it's
the,
like 5 years, we lost them, almost all of them,
Mhm.
and Property Liability Trust insured them, and so we had them replaced then.
But not with current technology.
Are they
No.
LED?
No.
Are they LED?
No,
No,
they're
they're not.
not LED.
Can they be
They're
LED lights?
high-pressure sodium.
I can find out.
Could you find, because honestly, LEDs, once you put them in, are,
Yeah.
you know, you got 13
Cheaper
years.
run.
Oh, yeah, the streetlights have saved us a fortune.
Yeah, these are high-pressure sodium, and
Yeah.
it takes a while for them to even come up once they turn it
Because
on.
it may be just better to get rid of those right now and just, replace them.
I can
We can
put a
look
call out, ask the electrician, what do you think it would cost to
it up. Right,
set that up? They must have like a formula for lights, how many
yeah.
on the sides of the grounds and stuff like
Does the
that.
electric company give any kind of credits for that type of thing?
I don't know, but we can look into that.
But my question is,
Exactly.
because we got grants for the streetlights, do you think they do grants for?
Well, that's what I just asked her.
We'll look into it. But I'm honestly, I'd say that's a 2019
Oh, yeah.
project to
Oh,
do.
I know. It's a
There's
warrant
not
article.
enough money.
Oh, and that's fine, it's a warrant article, but my point is, it's moving forward.
Yeah.
Reduce maintenance, reduce cost.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Because what I see is a lot of holes in the hull, but you're still floating, which is good. But I think probably sort of like having a job description for people, we need a responsibility description for the rec department versus the town. So that you know what it is, what our responsibilities are, what yours are, and if there is a question in between, where to direct them.
Yeah, that would be perfect.
Paul, what is it called that you do almost every day with the four-wheeler on the field?
I drag the field out here for the softball because
Drag it.
if we don't, they take a car up there.
Okay, I don't know what that stuff is called, and I'm seeing this, all these different words to do for the fields, and I'm like, oh.
You just do Crosco Field.
No, I go up there too,
Maloney?
but I was told not to do infields this year.
Yeah, we're doing it ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, no one's doing Caswell though, right?
I don't have anything to fill.
Well, I'm just saying that there's no one doing it now. We just had a practice there and it was terrible. Was it? It's like hard clay.
That's how Maloney was,
Yeah.
before we used your invention on it.
That's a wrong
It's
soil.
great if you have
on
someone
Maloney.
who knows how to make that rake.
It's an engineer.
Well, can I just make a suggestion? I think there were some good points brought up here, and I think everything that was discussed here tonight can be resolved. I think there's a way to resolve it all. My suggestion is, number one, read that knowing the territory, because it will give you a foundation as to what your powers are and what they aren't, all right? And how to work with the different boards. I think it'd be a good idea, probably, for us to get together, Selectmen, Recreation Department, 4 times a year. Have a meeting, make it scheduled so that if there are problems, issues that come up, we can resolve them quickly, rather than wait for a whole year to go by. But I do think it's incumbent upon the Board of Selectmen to probably distinguish what your job is and what our job is, what our responsibilities are. And we can definitely work on that for you. I think it'll be a start in the right direction.
Sort of, to me, sort of the simple division is I don't want to have anything to do with running your program, identifying your coaches, scheduling your games.
Smart man.
You don't?
No,
Okay.
You sure, cause,
no, I mean as a select, I
Yeah.
absolutely do it your way. And just let us know here what it is so that Paul would be better able to schedule the time that he does have. That's all, but I mean, absolutely do it your way.
Right, and administratively, most of the people are now registering through that credit card SI program.
Okay?
The checks that come here, there's still some people that will still mail it in. Liz processes as a deposit, makes the copies for me, then I do the data entry directly into the SI system as well.
Okay,
Whereas before, they would just get like a stack of checks.
so finances are better.
Oh, the finances are 100% better,
so
yeah.
much better. The
That was a
credit card thing,
huge
you for us.
Okay.
And also, if I can just make one more suggestion, all right? Minutes would help us tremendously. Because if we can read your minutes, we can find out what the issues are and what the problems are.
We didn't have a meeting in January, nor did we have one in March, and we just canceled May's because we didn't have enough people.
Yeah.
So I owe you April's,
Okay.
Yeah, and we got March today, February.
February's today.
May I say
I
something?
was,
Yeah.
The administration may work in most areas, but processing invoices is
Right, the
beginning to
bills.
have a problem.
Yeah, she's got some bills if you guys can if you have enough of a quorum to say, we approve these bills.
Or somebody sign off, they've approved it at their meeting, but the invoice itself is not. And that needs to be dealt with in
Why
some
can't
way.
can you scan them and email them to us? Or email them to
You
me?
may email them to me.
Are you talking about my email too?
Yeah,
You want me to sign them?
no, I want somebody in the
Rec committee to say they're
rec committee
approved.
is approved.
Actually, in your meeting, you have to have
They
a
are
motion and a
approved.
second, and
They
then
send
approve.
them, like, he's in charge of softball,
But do
so
you-
he.
So were they in the
Yeah.
April meeting and we don't have those?
No, they were
No, they were
February
in
meeting.
February, but
But you need an input, you need a secondary form or something?
to me, internal controls, no offense to anybody, but when Steve puts in an invoice to pay Steve, somebody else needs to look at it, okay? If Sharon.
Yeah, we have a really good audit team,
The reason
so.
why is that, like, in a great many instances, like, we have umpires, for example, that want cash. They do not want checks, unfortunately, sometimes because of the delayed process or has been in the past. And if it takes months to get paid, they want it now. And
Again.
umpires are really, really, really hard to find.
The refs, we're good with basketball, and that worked out pretty good.
Yeah,
And Sharon was on that email too, like, that's why I'm trying to send it to both you guys, so you guys can say,
Give
maybe
me my
Sharon,
folder back, 'cause I like
maybe
that
Sharon
folder.
just types in and says, I agree, or whatever,
Just
you know.
like
See,
you
if she
do,
does
like
that,
you
I
do.
just Put your name.
Well, because like during soccer season, I remember I submitted a couple times my distributor for things like ice packs and goalie gloves, and they disappeared. And I found out about a week before the season, so I went on Amazon, and I remember putting in a check saying, can someone reimburse me for like $200 worth of supplies I just got? And you did, it was-
And I had somebody initial off and sign on it,
Yeah.
okay? There has to, in essence, be a group, how you keep track of whether you're staying below the not to exceed amount
The
is your
person who's in
business.
charge of that particular, like softball, he does that.
Okay,
She does soccer.
As
Whoever's
long
in
as
charge of that, that's who
somebody
keeps
does.
track of it.
One
That's,
of the other things you can do is you can have a subcommittee meeting. So instead of trying to get your whole rec committee together, you might identify a finance committee of 3 people and have those 3 people get together and review those invoices so Liz can have a sign off.
that's right.
But we're, like,
yeah.
I thought that we kind of go through every line item for what we're approving and all vote on it before we spend it.
I just meant to go faster. That's
So what we need to talk about basically is just the process of how, because what we do is whoever's in charge of a particular program, whether it's basketball or softball, they come to the meeting, they have an idea of what they want to spend.
Okay.
And then they tell us, I want this much in my budget. And they track their budget, they track how much money comes in at the end of, they have an idea of how many people have signed up, and then the expenses. So and then they submit those invoices to Liz. So this is what we have to figure out. How do you want to get those? Do you always want to have one of these town agreement accounts payable requests with every invoice?
I want somebody to sign that sucker.
Okay,
It's not signed, it's
Okay.
not, you guys come up with, okay, we've got 14 people that are gonna be in this, and we need 13 new uniforms. That's gonna cost me, about $500, and you approve that. That sounds good. But when that invoice comes in for $432, somebody needs to say, yep, we got those
Right,
uniforms.
uniforms arrived.
right, well, that's what Steve did the order, he got them in, he got the
So-
bill, and
so
he's
And
what-
then
saying,
we forwarded
here's,
on.
here's the deal, is that this process has been evolving. I mean,
It has.
this is
It
the
has.
exact same thing I did last year, and the year before that, and the year before that.
But somebody,
And before,
I would
and
get
before I
her
used
to
to send
sign
them,
off on it.
and before I used to send them to like Pafford.
right,
And say,
because Pafford
please
used to just
approve.
do it himself,
And
but
you would approve
we
it.
can't do
Right.
that anymore, we
Because
have to have the committee
he was-
approve the expenses.
At the time, the committee approved Brian they gave him the authority to approve invoices.
That's correct, but
In
the
no
auditor said no.
territory.
Yeah. we were
Right,
told
and the
we couldn't do
auditors
that.
wrote them up.
And
Right.
that's fine, but that requirement remains.
So basically what you're saying
All right,
is
we
this,
have to come up with
then you're gonna have to, we're gonna have to send all of you, you're gonna have to approve.
And that's fine, and I'll send you this thing, and that's fine, we'll
You
do it
know
that
how you
way.
signed that,
Yep.
you send me those suckers and you've got your, it
I
looks
didn't
like
know-
you've got your electronic signature, but I
That's
don't
not
care.
electronic, that's my signature.
Sure.
That's fine.
Exactly.
I can say going forward, when you get an invoice, email it to me and I'll email it to you.
Yeah.
And you'll have the whole chain,
Yeah.
and then I'll say, and I'll do this invoice request thing.
Yeah.
And attach it to it, so
Or
you
just
have the
say
invoice.
such and such invoice is okay to pay.
Oh, you don't need that invoice request thing then.
No, I
Oh,
can get by
alright,
without it.
I
You
do
guys
it-
have,
I
do
do
I,
it for
do
me
you need something
because
for me to
it's
do?
practice.
Yes, there's an approved stamp on each one of those.
You want me to put
blue.
my name on it?
I do.
Okay, I can do that. I didn't think I could do
And I
that,
think
I thought everything had to
we're
be
like-
committee.
If it's a bill that's been
But they've
approved
been
in your
accepted.
committee and it's not one that's you to you, but you ordered uniforms or trophies and it came in
Collins
from
is
Crown
in
Trophy,
Collins
if
is
you
in there. That's
sign
fine.
it before you send it over.
Well, because they
Proof to
email
pay.
us the bills.
Yeah.
So you want us to print it out and sign it?
Yes, just the auditors look at all of our bills to make sure that whoever is in charge of that program sees that proof that they looked at it.
Okay, but then I have to print out a butt ton of emails from people, and then I'm spending
You know what,
a
just
whole lot
forward
of
it to me, and then I'll forward it to Liz,
quit it.
and we'll just.
And I'll print it out, because I've got all the time in the world.
And all the
keep in
ink,
mind
and all the
that-
ink.
Exactly, but the town will pay for her.
Yeah, but only up to a certain point, okay? Keep that in mind, is that we
All a
all,
warrant article for overtime, Chris,
you
just
know,
come on.
all of us have other lives that we have to deal with, okay? And I just need to have an approval, and I don't think when I get an invoice, I don't believe it's delayed long.
No,
So
I
if
think it
you're
has
getting people
improved
saying-
immensely, it's improved a lot.
Well, and also, just as you might imagine with this group, we meet every other week, but things happen in the meantime. We've often delegated things to Karen to handle in the meantime.
Can we do that?
You certainly can. Not necessarily Karen, but among yourselves, you don't have to wait to have your monthly meeting in order to do some things. If you've appointed a subcommittee and have at least a couple of people looking at things.
But we have to have a quorum to approve monies.
No,
Well, the auditors,
Well, we were
the
told-
auditors wrote them up.
for that.
Well,
Yeah.
we were told that
We got written up,
Because they have to be
budget.
approved in a public meeting, just like the board, because it's a special revenue fund.
That's
And then
true,
as long as it
except-
is approved
except for the
within that
fact
budget.
The subcommittee, in fact, can be a legal public meeting.
Right,
That's-
but if we have to start breaking into subcommittees and having extra meetings, I won't speak for everyone else, but no.
Okay.
We have a hard
We're a
time
very
getting it.
small group
Yeah.
anyway, like that's why we didn't have a meeting this month, is because over half of us couldn't make it.
Because we were all coaching a team,
Yeah,
or working in the snack shack or whatever, you know.
because we're
I
all doing all the
forgot
things
it
that the
wasn't
committee
me.
needs us to do. So, yeah.
So that's what we do. All right, that's fine, that's not a problem, I get
You
it.
know, all I can say is if I don't get that, you know the write-up you got?
Then she'll get it.
And I don't want that.
I wish the
Well,
auditors had been
as long
more
as,
clear
I
that.
guess if
Right.
if we
Because they
can
told
clearly
us
define the
as long as it's
process,
within
that's
your-
it.
Yeah.
You know, as long as we know.
Budget.
Right,
Me, I don't know.
Okay, go.
That's-
But
now we
yeah,
know.
it's more
I have nothing
significant, you know,
against
within the-
paying, nothing at all. Just,
I trust them,
I do too, but
We spent last year
and then the
up to
auditors don't.
this, and then I keep tabs. As long as I'm up to that, I'm good.
Now, when it comes to Paul and his work, one of the things that we know is happening is in the springtime, everybody wants every bit of time that he's got, and in the fall, everybody wants every minute that he's got. And so we have to find a way to spread our resources the best way. And understand, part of it would be working on schedules enough in advance so that you can allocate enough time, so that unless an emergency happens, you can get out there and get some stuff done. And just being realistic about when he can get there. And if he can't, then we're just gonna have to have some provision in there for getting contractors.
So at the beginning of the
That
meeting,
was,
you had
that's
said
fine,
something
and we're
about
fine with that.
having, Paul had someone to help him like during the summer. Would it make more sense to have that person in spring and fall? Because those sound like the insanely
Call
busy
the
time?
student.
Okay.
If-
Maybe find
That's
out
what
the
was done
difference.
yesterday, yeah.
Well, just because if
Maybe we need
summer's not
somebody
the real
better,
busy
maybe we need a
time.
full-time person.
So I think the two
Seem
things,
like
that
that-
this gentleman's discussion about having a matrix of who's responsible for what, and then building a schedule off of what's responsible for us and what's responsible.
Right, but it's hard to build a schedule when you can't guarantee anything.
Right.
It's not a knock on you.
No, that's why I stressed that.
So my question to the select board is, what can we do to get Paul more help or more time so he can guarantee a day here and there? Or do we sub it out? Do you sub out the infield like they've already done? I mean, they've already done this. They've already gone above and beyond it and taken it into there and had, equipment, heavy equipment on the infield.
I want to take this question a step further. Did you say earlier, and maybe I'm not remembering this properly, is this $30,000 built into the budget for maintenance?
Yes.
So,
Right, where is that going?
Right, that's the budget that I read out for you.
Right, and so, is that money that we should be, $30,000 is a lot of money.
Well, it's to
Should we be
identify.
taking that money and subcontract, we're gonna go to a contractor? And pay them $100
Whether it
an hour.
comes from there or whether it comes from the revolving fund, it's still town funds, it doesn't really matter where. But the point is, the 30,000 of the
No,
bill,
I think we're missing the
Talking about
point.
the town fund or the rec fund?
the town fund was built using certain assumptions. So much money to do the fencing for a capital item, so much
Right.
money for the contracted fertilizing and things like that.
So is the I'm sorry, just to clarify, the $30,000 that's coming out of the budget above and beyond our fees is going into, where's that coming out of?
That's regular tax money.
So that is something that we cannot contract then directly? or-
That's correct.
But you can work with Paul on what you, like the
So if
fencing.
we tell Paul and say, hey, Paul,
You
get the
want a section
contract.
of fence
We
done.
want these infields all prepped in the fall and ready to go for the spring, go hire somebody to do it. Have it done by
Right.
November 1st or whatever.
Right, and maybe give him an idea of
Right. You get
where
it done
you're the
any way you see
recreation
fit.
people on, like how much infield mix really is needed, or,
We did that.
Okay.
We did that, yeah.
And keep in mind that that $30,000 isn't just rec fields. That takes care of things like Memorial Park up here, right? Isn't that right?
I kept that separate.
You kept that, so it's $30,000.
30 grand to the rec.
Porta potties.
Okay.
Right, the porta potties, the irrigation system.
Fertilizer.
Right.
The fee for the porta potties, is that what you
Yeah.
said? The fee?
Yeah.
She said it was
Those are
$200.
Karen,
$40 a month, 45 now.
So
Per
if
field,
we
okay.
knew, like, I could take a
Per
thing,
month.
fertilizer out of it, take the, whatever, the porta potties out of it, and all those other things that have to happen. If we knew how much was left in that we have the ability to use.
exactly, Karen, that's what I was saying. The $30,000, how much, that $30,000, that's not included with the Memorial Park?
No.
No.
So what is the total with the Memorial Park?
Memorial, those parks are $11,045.
In addition to the 30?
That's separate, right, but that's separate, that's electricity,
Okay.
maintenance, that's where we have the part-time labor person. though.
Okay,
So
I just want to
actually
make that
belongs
clear
down
because $30,000 is not a lot of money. It can go just like that.
there. Right,
So we really need to know,
And that's what, we back those other things that are supposed to, like you said.
right, infield mix, we got $750 for infield mix. Like, and Sharon and I sit down at the beginning, and, she's like,
Well, that's what they're saying, is that, no, we should.
We should,
we-
that's
we-
what
we
I
just
said.
have-
Pay that out of our
We budget that
All
every
we
year.
do is
but we
we
shouldn't have to.
say, Paul, go,
We
all we do
paid,
is send
we
an
paid
email
for
out
that
and say.
infield mix this year. The town did,
Yeah,
not
but
Oh,
I'm
no,
saying-
we have paid it out of the
No.
rec fund in the past.
in the
though.
past, but not this year. you did.
Okay, all right.
No, what we need to do is that, we've identified holes, all right, so we've
Karen,
step one.
Gary, would be more than happy to give you a copy of that whole page in the
We
budget.
Yeah.
we know what's left.
That's
And
right.
then if you folks will identify, yes, we're doing X, Y, and Z, and then we know certain things aren't gonna be done. And then we can then go ahead and we know there's funds available to contract with somebody to come in and fix these things when we need them fixed.
Yeah. And as it
I
gets
was in a
more
different way,
Spreadsheet, that goes against the
Like,
chain.
like earlier, you said you don't wanna be part of scheduling for team creation or coach choosing. We don't wanna be part of budgeting or figuring out what.
Right,
benefits
I
come
agree with
from.
that. I agree
Like,
with
that's
you, sir.
not,
I agree
that's
with
not
you
what we want
100%.
anything to do with.
right, I do
Right.
want help with the budgeting, only because,
On what's required, right?
Yeah,
That piece of it.
exactly.
We should help
Right.
set requirements,
right,
right? And then the town helps figure out who.
right, and
fulfills
as I
those
usually talk to the
requirements.
chairman, like, and prior to Sharon stepping in, when it was Brian, he'd just say, same as last year, same as last year, same, so we
Well-
carried that same budget as
And let's take
per.
2 seconds just to show you how the budget's built. We get started on building our budget in late September, early October. And we create a number that starts through the budget committee process. And it is the budget committee process that will decide about that $30,000 number being too high, too low, or otherwise. And so we just make a proposal, and then eventually the budget committee reviews it. And then finally, it gets put onto the ballot, and that's what you're voting on in March.
Right.
So if you are there when the page is blank, that's wonderful. Tell us what you'd like to put in there. And then if someone will come to a budget committee meeting with us and explain how the number got put together, fantastic. And then, you're right, you shouldn't have to administer the budget. We have Liz. We have Karen. By that I mean,
I pay the bills.
Liz can always tell you though what
What's
balance is.
Yep, and I usually, right now I do a monthly financial statement that's basically just your special revenue fund. I do it, the same type of report, even more detailed, an expenditure report on the whole operating budget. And I just put them in everybody's box. I can put them in your box as well, to show you what this budget, this part of the budget is
So you
doing.
can see where you are. Absolutely.
Okay, Chester, go ahead.
Well, I think it's going against the chain of command here. If the rec department sees a problem, they should go to maintenance, and maintenance should handle it, whether it's handled in-house, subbed out, or the best way maintenance sees fit. That's why we have the maintenance department.
I thought that's what we just discussed.
Well, then it goes back to they can see how much money they have left over.
Well, the financial part of it,
To subcontract out what isn't getting down the list. That's
Yeah.
Steve Sargent just said
Well,
that.
we wouldn't subcontract it out.
Okay, no.
No, I'm not-
Contact me.
Good, okay.
No,
that's what he said.
And you would do it? And you would-
Yeah.
Okay.
Because if it's over a certain amount, I gotta go send them out to bid and
Yeah.
do that. And I always talk to Karen before I even do that on the budget.
We write an email, we say, we send it to Karen, we
You
send
guys-
it to whoever, maybe we
Send
send
it
it
to
to the
Paul.
entire board and say,
I don't
hey,
know.
these fields need to be prepped and ready, and we understand that the town's not gonna
You
cover
guys
that,
have
so
my-
please
Yeah,
subcontract
you
this
do.
work out.
Yes.
Right, and I mean, that's what this list is.
yep.
And unfortunately, what's gonna happen is,
It's a yes, no, and if no, subcontract it out.
and this goes
That's
back to those
Okay.
people that we hire for, is unfortunately what happens here is this, is that instead of having the cost to hire somebody within the town to fulfill that void, we're gonna be going outside of the town and contracting somebody for $100 an hour to do that.
Right,
That's what happens.
right.
So it's not gonna be a town employee, but I mean, and that's where the labor, having town labor, somebody to be able to physically do that stuff. We pay somebody for less than $20 an hour, I don't know, for a part-time person to come in and help do some things. and
Yeah,
We'll
he gets
go outside
15.
and spend a lot more than that.
All right, so we create kind of a chain of command, job responsibilities, who's responsible for what. And when we do that, then you can go through the chain of command. You go to Paul, or you come to us, or you go,
Who here is responsible when we would need to, but somebody.
well,
Send it
Chester's
all.
your liaison.
So
He's
we
the,
send
That's
a
just a
thing,
man.
so we email,
For 2 years.
so we email Chester and say, hey, this,
Every time.
so
I
Yep.
said that.
contract this, do this.
and he will bring it up because
Copy.
we're gonna have liaison, on the agenda, we're gonna be discussing liaison issues. So it's gonna be on a regular basis, so, I'm the police department, fire department, if I have issues with them, I'll bring it up to the board. He'll bring your issues up to the board, and we'll discuss them. And we'll nail them on the head right there on the spot, instead of waiting a year to go by. I really think it's important that we get together with you guys 4 times a year, at least, minimum, but 4 times a year, I think we'll do it. So we can untangle these things before they get tangled.
So I'll give you a real example, and let's see how this plays out, right? We just had baseball practice at Cadwell Field, and the clay has tightened way up, and it's pretty unsafe, like 2 kids got hurt, the second base bag, the post that goes into the ground kind of snapped off as someone slid into second base. So what do we do about, so that happened tonight, so in that scenario, what do? I send an email to Chester and say hey, we need to figure this stuff out.
Take it from there.
Yeah, and he'll take it from there, yeah.
You guys
Because in
have
the
any posts taken
past-
around?
He's your main contact.
Right, so in the past, is this the list?
Just, no, the second.
This was the list that we
The most recent, so in the past, we've had this list, and it's basically been the same list for 3 years now. And so my concern is, like you were saying, like, if we meet more regularly, things won't kind of get put on the back burner. Because I know Chester's been coming, or, I'm assuming, taken him as, he's been coming and saying, here's the list. We've been sending that, I haven't not been responsible. The list has been sent, I'll use passive voice. And things get put on the back burner, which I get, because like you all said, things happen, life comes up, something happens with the fire department, something happens with the road closed, a tree falls, whatever. But it's the same list for 3 years, which was a big piece of why we're here, is because we're going, well, what should we be doing with our list then? And so I love the idea of, I mean, you guys, we always meet the first Wednesday of the month. You're always welcome to our meetings, and we can make a point to come to your meetings. But being the same 8 things for 3 years is not super fun.
Sure.
It sounds like this year too. When will your program sort of have a lull here in the next little bit? When school lets out? Do you have a couple of weeks?
Well, my soccer camp is the last week in July. When's field hockey and football?
I didn't bring my file.
The point
Usually there's always a break.
And all I'm saying
There
is
is a break.
There's usually a lull in August.
we may need to go out and take an inspection with an idea of creating a warrant article for the next year.
Yeah, we can do that.
Because if it's down to the level that you say, we may need to get money for a professional to come and fix it. Okay, and I do not expect Paul, who has every other responsibility in the world, to rebuild the field.
No, and that's why
And we never did
don't
either with
expect
this
him
list
to
either. It was always, that list was just to say, what can you do and what can't you do?
If we find that that's something that needs to be done, then what we're gonna have to do is start building the idea of a warrant article and getting support to get it passed through the budget committee, if that's what's really needed.
I mean, my guess is that'll be needed at Caswell. Crasco's gonna need to be re-leveled, and Maloney needs a complete implosion, really, honestly. If you've ever tried to drive a car in there, you're risking your entire chassis, maybe. I don't do cars, but
Keeps them.
yeah, just where you
Paul,
park.
I guess the
Like, not the
problem is, like, if you
fields,
do a
the
warrant article and
It's
it-
slanted, if you know how to
you
drill
spend
holes
money
and
to
stuff, you're good.
fix the field, if you then just leave it, and it gets worse and worse, and there has to be like a long-term,
I understand. But as you can see, there's money in every year's budget, and maybe the year after it's not 30, maybe it's 40.
Right.
Because of that extra 10,000 to maintain the good condition of what just got fixed.
right?
In the same way that we fix our tennis courts, okay? We spend a bunch, and then we do something on them most of
Yeah,
the year.
last year we resurfaced, this year we added those pickleball lines, and oh my goodness,
I saw
I'm getting,
somebody playing pickleball this weekend.
I'm getting more emails and people,
Pro pickle or anti-pickle?
pro
Pro
pickle.
pickle, all right.
Oh,
okay.
they wanna set up leagues that, yeah.
Can I just say one thing? All right, when budget time comes, it's important that you guys put together a good sales package for the budget committee. All right, because you gotta remember, these guys get together, you know, for just a short period of time once a year. They really don't know what's going on in the town. I probably shouldn't say this, but, I mean, they don't, but they expect to hear from you. They need to hear from you, so you need to really sell them on your product, so to speak. I don't know if you know what I mean, but.
Right, and Sharon's on the budget committee, she knows.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. No, but you know what I'm saying, don't
The
you?
budget committee, I
Am I
think,
right?
would be
Yes,
the first
yeah.
to admit they're not out there day-to-day in operations. They're listening to what groups of people come forward and tell them,
Mhm.
so.
That's important, that really is important.
So,
And you'll have, I'll be honest with you, almost every member of the Board of Selectmen attends every single budget meeting. So, you know, if you're in there, it's not that we wouldn't back you up. If we believe in what you're doing, we'll back you up. So anyway, that's all I'll say. For the record.
well, I hope, I'm glad that you guys were able to come tonight. I hope you felt Julie listened to. And I hope that we can make some continuing improvements. It sounds like the money's getting improved.
So we, I appreciate that, and I'd just like to leave here so we're all clear, we have this written down, and we even have action items that are gonna happen and what we're doing here, so everybody understand?
I think so.
Well, I missed the first part of it.
Sharon
Is someone
doesn't have
taking
any.
minutes? Did you take minutes on?
They will
You're
be
being
coming up.
recorded.
You've been writing everything down.
You're being recorded.
I seem to just want to know. I can tell you what everybody said.
Shall we give you a
You
copy?
getting it under the breath stuff too? Yeah.
I have a question for you, so please.
So,
So I I just want to mention, is that the committee should really, just, like, we started defining this and we stopped partway through. I would request that you guys finish this and just tell us what, again, define that, put this in writing. Tell us what it is, so it's defined for future, not just now and here. But then we will know, it'll be a starting point, and it's certainly, this thing isn't an end-all be-all, but at least it gives us, something that can evolve over time.
Yeah.
Right.
A fluid document, something that gives us where it's going today, we have some basis to act on, we have an understanding, and then when we find these holes like this that come up, we now have that process which is written down, we shall, email Chester and say, we need somebody out here to do this.
And that has happened in the past.
Yeah.
It's not
So
quite-
what you would like then is each one of these bullet points,
Just
who does it? Who's responsible?
That was the original
That's what
request
you
that we
would
had
like.
a year ago.
Okay.
Basically, we just trying to understand where we stand, what are we doing, what do we need to take care of, how do we do this? You know what I mean? We understand Paul's got a lot of, things going on, and it wasn't meant to, poke Paul or anything like that. It was just simply to
Right.
poke, like, frankly, you, to tell us.
And we keep poking you guys, that's right.
To tell us, what are we doing here? What are we trying to do?
Okay.
What are we responsible for? What are you saying
Yep.
the committee is responsible for? If you're saying, and we seem to have a process down, and we want to find that process, so.
Okay, can,
Sure.
I make a suggestion that, I don't know how many people you have on your committee. Do you have is it a set number that's,
Is it I don't remember if it has to be a set number, I can't
There
remember.
is a set number. It's either 5 or 7.
Up to 8?
I'm pretty sure we're up to 7.
Well, because who's not
That's
here,
whatever
Adam
more
and
I
Matt.
said all.
It's an odd,
Yeah,
it's an
yeah.
odd number.
Well, now, see, if you had Knowing the Territory, that book I'm telling you to get,
Yeah.
it would tell you.
There's a certain amount, we know this, we should know this. I mean, there's a certain
Right.
amount of voting members, and then we have extra members.
Right, I remember we went through that, but I just can't remember what the
Yeah.
end of the day, what it was.
Right.
yeah, I'd just like to suggest that perhaps it would be prudent to try and recruit somebody who doesn't want to go umpire ball games like I did 40 years ago.
Ball back then?
Yeah, really. But
It's kind of
knows-
real hair.
knows how to inspect property, an engineer, or somebody like
Well,
that
but
who
then
might.
that's not rec.
Right.
The
Rec department shouldn't be in engineering and inspection, like,
Well, if you had a volunteer, wouldn't it help you?
We actually tried that once. It worked out well.
I actually
I feel like.
I actually think our property liability company would send someone down and do an inspection for us.
If you've got a volunteer, that becomes a liability, I would think.
I'll contact Primex, they insure our fields and equipment. And I think that they actually have a program that they would send someone down and do the full inspection of our fields
If that's the
for us.
case, I would love to, I'm sure a few of us would like to meet with them and go
Didn't
over
we do that?
things.
Right.
Did we do that a couple of years ago? Did we
Yes.
have like a full safety
Yep,
analysis?
with Property Liability Trust, and they've now closed, but now we're with Primex.
Yeah.
And I can see if
Your
they'll
question
do that.
about members, I'll tell you, like in the last 4 years, probably 25% of our meeting has been trying to figure this stuff out. Like we talk about it every single meeting, in every single scenario. Do we do it? Do we take money from the revolving fund? So this is really good, like to say, we're gonna figure out who does what, what's coming out of the budget and what's not, who's doing it.
To save you time, if you identify these questions, get them to Chester, we'll give you an answer.
Okay.
Cool.
We'll identify sources in the budget and give you an answer as to what we think.
Right, and Paul can tell us what you can do on that list and what you can't.
To be really pushy, I know I'm pushing the issue, because everyone wants to go home. How soon can second base get fixed? I'm assuming there's baseball practice tomorrow.
Need the new base.
Need the new base.
Who's in charge of that? This is every month, we do this.
I don't know if you guys know, the place in Portsmouth closed, where we buy our
Is it Tom
supplies.
Steve Sales?
Yeah.
Yeah, I found out a week before.
I found out when I went to buy something.
I wasn't happy.
All right, but your question's well taken, so
Right.
answer the question.
This
Who is in charge of
So
that?
who's gonna fix second
Paul.
base, and how soon can
Paul.
we do it?
Stop for a second. Please stop for a second. I'm out. All right? That's a simple question, and it wasn't answered. Who is in charge of getting the bases?
Don't know.
That's what we.
Don't know,
We've been
right?
asked to
So
do it
this is
before.
why,
All right,
because that, like I said, I'm sure there's gonna be a baseball practice tomorrow.
all right. So who's in charge of getting the bases? Where's the money coming?
Do we have any extra bases out here? Or are they different?
Well, we
different.
typically buy bases, but I mean, now you're talking about installation, you know, foundations. stuff
No,
like
no, no, the
No, no.
foundation's good, it's just the base is no good.
that. Then we do typically buy bases.
Is that right? Like, we're talking about it, we might as well figure out who is responsible.
Do you
Like,
know
there's
the
lots
I
of
bought them
sources? You know the sources where a base could be purchased?
Amazon.
Okay, that's not a bad
I'm not
idea.
kidding.
Well, he just said someplace in Rochester.
You can, but I would go to Amazon. We
Well,
use
why
that
don't,
time
why don't you
sale.
buy it and give it to me, so it's not Ken
I
paying
can, but then
Ken?
she won't pay
No,
me.
that's what I
because-
said.
So this is what we do every month, guys.
You know, can I say something? Again, we're spinning our wheels right now. Where are you gonna get you got a game tomorrow night, where are you gonna, there's gotta be a place around you can get a base.
Now,
I don't know
I would
what's
make a
around
suggestion,
anymore.
buy two, so you always have a spare.
Yeah.
But I don't know what, I mean, I do soccer, and my soccer person. doesn't
Well,
here, so I
all
don't know
you,
what's
all,
around for
I'm
bases.
not, you know, I don't have kids in the rec department, I stopped playing baseball a long time ago. So, can somebody from the rec department find out where you can get a base?
Right, and what the specifics are, because we can get stock, but I'm sure if I went online to go buy a base in the morning, there'd be 10 versions and sizes and thicknesses, and I haven't a clue.
I bought them in the past.
Yeah.
And I mean, things like that are gonna affect our budgets, so.
Right. And Paul, are you able to loosen that clay up
It's
for them?
equipment,
I'd
it's
have
just
to
installation.
Get a rotor I don't have any.
No, you don't.
Okay, so how's it left? Who's gonna get the base?
Well, that's part of this, it is part of this list, I mean, define the stuff, so that's, you know,
Is that a
it's
rec?
it's equipment,
Is the rec
it's
department?
equipment. and-
My suggestion really, since you're gonna play tomorrow, find out locally where we can get the bases. Let Paul know, and he'll be able to use the credit. We got a credit card down in right?
For now, we should buy two if we're gonna buy.
Can you borrow one from Stratum? Maybe they've got
So,
I think we
Maybe
have an
they've got
extra
some
one.
extra bases.
it's just a mic, like, we're spending 10 minutes on this second base,
Yeah.
which is awesome,
Yeah,
but this is what this is what
I can
happens.
see that.
Right, this is,
I think it's
if we spend 10 minutes on every second base,
Right.
I have never gotten anything for,
Other than tennis court, tennis nets.
yeah,
I mean, I'll get online tomorrow, I'll find
And
out.
then we didn't know what we were
if I have
buying
to,
and had to
but,
return
you
the
know,
first set.
I don't think the maintenance supervisor should be going out purchasing athletic equipment, to be perfectly honest. I don't think that's.
When you need to specify, but they need it tomorrow, we may have to use the current credit cards.
Question.
I mean, if I have to run to Rochester, I can do that, but
That's what I'm thinking.
I don't know
So
the
you
size.
should be purchasing.
I'm sorry, we got.
So I guess that's what you guys need to figure out and tell us, right? I mean, it's part of the challenge.
I hereby tell you, go buy a base. We don't know what to buy.
That's it, but this is the exact point.
Where's the money
So
come from?
You tell us that we go out and we're responsible for equipment, and then now we're having a debate about who's responsible, with a discussion about who's responsible for maintenance. So this is like, you know.
We'd be happy to help you, but we don't know what to buy.
No, I'm not saying that. My point is that, you know, hey, we can't help you because you know what to do. You know what you need, and we go out and this is an equipment part of it. This is an equipment.
We get
So
it.
we're saying, yeah, all right, so we understand we need to get some equipment that goes along with our program. Then it becomes the maintenance issue, which fundamentally is you're talking about is, now we're talking about something that's like, you know, buildings and grounds and you know, something, you know, where does the town and find this list about where our responsibility is, like we go out, take pictures, send things, send emails, but inspection is not really,
Right.
from a
Right.
safety standpoint, I think you made a great point with this, you know, it's very subjective, you know, what's acceptable and what's not. You know.
Right,
So
we'll get
this
Primex
becomes
to
a
do it.
liability for the town, should be thought about.
Right. It's just an example, is what we're saying.
Right, and the town can purchase things if you work together and say, we need 3 of item 4623 from such and such a vendor, we can handle that. But
I guess my opinion, and again, I only speak for me, is I'm fine handling, okay, we need this for equipment or that. I know how many size 5 soccer balls we're gonna need or how many
Right.
nets, hopefully we won't need nets anytime soon. And so that makes sense, but then, like Steve was saying, the maintenance, okay, again, soccer fields are not as high maintenance as softball field, where you've got the flat surface of the infield, and then you get a lip that grows and grows and grows when you hit the grass to go to the outfield, and at what point does the surface have to be changed, or does that lip get too big where you've got a kid who just broke an ankle because they stepped on it wrong because now it's past, I don't know about ball fields.
Right.
And is that something that we then say, hey, ball
Well,
fields, can you guys hire someone?
We've
contract
always hired
someone?
somebody, since I've been here, every year to do the infield. Brassy used to come down with a grader.
Right. Well, what would be a good test is that situation you said at the Little League field, right? We have a problem not only with the base, but the actual.
Soil, yeah.
Exactly. It's a big problem, so we'll start there. We'll see how this works out, but this is a big test, I think, for us. Communication.
It's definitely a good start.
Yeah.
I mean,
Can somebody answer me, the bases are different size at Little League than up here? They're all the same, correct?
You mean the base itself?
Yeah.
I just don't know if I don't know if the post
Usually it's a 2x.
is the same size.
I
won't
answer
answer it.
But isn't Castle Field the same as
Well, the difference is gonna be the difference, the distance between the bases.
Yeah, but I'm saying the base,
Thickness
I'm
and-
talking about the base at Pearl.
Probably the same.
So
The
it's
question
both,
is,
all right.
what goes in the ground.
But it should
based
be
on-
universal.
One would think,
All
but
right.
we don't know the
That's,
answer.
I don't know it either, that's why I'm asking.
Hopefully it's a 2x2 receiver, right?
No idea.
I would,
Presume,
yeah, I think
but
it's
I
like
don't
an inch
know.
and a quarter.
So I guess.
Whatever.
So so are we saying we're gonna do a contractor for Caswell? Because he said he didn't have the,
I don't have anything that will fit on Castle Field for equipment, or the infield.
What would you need to scarify the dirt?
The only thing I can,
You need a nail drag.
You need a,
You need a piece of equipment that can drag it, not an ATV. An ATV in these things is not really the ideal piece of equipment.
Because it's not heavy enough to break it.
The ATV is
I
too
can't move
powerful
it.
a piece of equipment.
Right.
And a simple nail drag is something that I drag around partially, by hand sometimes. But you need water on it to make that happen.
Is
Otherwise, it's too hard.
Is there currently a
You wanna
lip
get it
problem
built?
there too?
yes.
Okay, so it needs more than just having the dirt broken up, it also needs the lip resolved.
I think that's probably a after season.
I don't think you get a lip issue, I think.
There's definitely,
Well, the outfield's about 8 inches lower than the infield.
but that could be,
That much?
Oh, yeah, in places.
This was what we were talking about before. We had an estimate a number of years ago for $20,000, I think it was about, look at what Matt got from Fernandez to completely redo this thing, because this is what happens over time with these things, is it's got to a point where it drops off the backside. And then, and as these things go on, and they're not maintained well, they keep compounding and getting worse, and then bang, you got a $20,000 problem.
the short-term thing is to turn over the dirt, like that's what needs to happen. to keep it
Regularly.
playable right now, through the end of the season.
regularly, like when you mow it, when it gets mowed, infield should be turned.
It's,
If it's turned with a machine frequently, then before and after games, it can be hand dragged
right, Paul, does he have a?
until the next cycle or mowing or whatever. In my opinion,
Or a hose?
There is a
you
hose
gotta have a
stick
machine
now.
that fits in the,
Brand new
you
one.
gotta cut a hole in the fence to get the machine
One
in
that
there.
you can
That's what
reach,
needs to happen.
not
I mean,
behind the
that's
fence.
not, to me, that's not an excuse. It's,
Yeah.
I can't get the machine in. Oh, the machine doesn't fit in, nothing. We gotta get a bigger gate.
Yeah.
I mean, I'll go over there with my golf carts tomorrow. I got the day off. Where's the nail drag?
okay.
But we
I'll
need to
volunteer my time.
establish a standard
So I
operating
guess,
procedure for this.
But-
we can talk afterward, I mean, so we're clear?
Yeah.
We're good? We appreciate your time and efforts and.
And I would like to invite you, anytime that you have continuing issues, please get to us when the issues are this big, not this big, and please keep talking to us.
I want to thank Paul for coming to a few of our meetings. That's
Yeah,
been very
Paul's
helpful.
going out of his way.
Changing?
Stand
And
down.
I got one
I
more
think your
for the,
suggestion
next
about,
time.
Okay.
I think
So
the
that's
suggestion
still
about maybe a
I haven't
part-time
got it
person,
next
to
week.
an official
You know what the-
town rec person, something that should definitely have some sort of, I
We'll have
think.
to look into funding that.
I mean, I don't know if it's feasible, I don't know if it's,
Yeah.
when you said that, I was like, that one, that
I
idea.
think a lot of communities have a part-time, it's almost like over at the school, there's a part-time AD over there now. so-
Right.
Just
It's
close
almost
the
a
door.
season.
Shut down shop.
Tired guy, let's go.
Well, that's,
Like I know Sharon said.
I just want to make sure.
Oh, all right.
If they're done, we can-
Are we ready to adjourn?
In terms of-
All right, ladies and gentlemen,
Are we done?
I feel bad for Charlotte, she's gonna have to try to transcribe these
I have some notes for her.
Yeah, we will review some options. And before we leave, I just wanted to spend 10 minutes talking about Willowbrook and Great Bay West.
Okay.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you. I hope to repair it, because I gotta travel every day.
Thank you.
Thank you very
You guys
much.
winding that.
Willowbrook, so you just came for observing?
Well overdue. You know, the thing about traffic, I'll tell you this, is that when you widen it, it goes fast. When it's narrow, what happens, everybody slows
What, the
down.
tall grass? No, you cannot go inside of that. That's why I'm not even allowed to cut it.
I assumed that.
That's what gives
I'd rather
footage
make it
of
low.
the
Yeah.
water.
That's what I thought. I
Yeah.
just wanted to double check.
Yeah.
You have a shirt?
I just.
Yeah, I don't
All
have.
right, we're gonna keep talking, so you guys can go the
Yeah.
other way.
Sorry.
Thanks. Yeah, I know.
I just wanted to take 5 or 10 minutes and have Karen give us an update on the permits we've received on Great Bay West and Willowbrook.
Okay, they came through Willow, as applied for, so Willowbrook is not requiring a box culvert. There's a 30-day appeal period. They're setting up a schedule for Lyman to at least be able to get started out there with the permits in place. He'll sign the contract, start the tree work, start the regrinding, the things that he can get done on Willowbrook. Only at this point. He has not been authorized to do anything on Great Bay Drive West as yet.
Okay, well, tell us what's happening in Great Bay West,
Tomorrow at 8 o'clock, they're supposed to do the overlay,
the Shimco.
the Shimco, yeah.
That's for wrestling?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. And so
Your
therefore,
update?
What was that?
What was your update
My update.
on Great Bay Drive West?
Oh, the apology?
Yeah.
I was walking my dog last night and, almost 6:30, the Mercedes came up and stopped, window came down, and it was Attorney Wallace.
Yeah.
And he wanted to thank the board for making the decision, and he wanted to apologize for his scare tactics that were not appreciated. That was,
Well, I was gonna bring that up at the next
A
meeting.
little funny.
They were scare tactics.
What,
But
the
it-
bullying?
they were,
Yeah.
absolutely, and I said that to him.
now,
But
I
it was
just
very
wanted-
nice, it was
I
a nice
wanted to make-
apology, and it was, I think it was legitimate. so.
But I wanted to make it known for public record that, his saying that we could all be sued individually is non-compass mentis. There's no way that could happen. And I say that publicly, and I want it on record, because I don't want somebody who wants to come up and be a
afraid
selectman
to be
think
sued.
they can be sued, at the drop of a hat, which they can't.
Right.
So,
An update on Willowbrook.
yes.
I'm meeting with Ben tomorrow at 8 o'clock. I met with, Eversource, I keep on wanting to say public service, but Eversource about the poles. They had a question to me, which is, I'm glad we're here. There's one pole in front of number 20. So it comes across the road for one pole, then comes back across. They want to cut down 2 extra trees, take that pole, move it to the other side of the road. They don't have to change the lines. Nobody will be able to service just by removing 2 trees, which are all on town property.
Okay.
That sounds great.
Are they dropping them, or are we supposed to pay?
Will be part of the tree removal there. So Ben's gonna come out and I'm gonna show him what they were talking about. Because there's plenty of line if they take that, why that one pole's in that person's property, they don't know why. But the only way they can move the lines is remove the 2 trees in front of them.
okay.
And then there's nobody loses anything out there. They'll just set the new poles, run the lines.
And they're ready to get it into a schedule?
Yes,
Do we need a motion?
I don't know.
Only if we get a change order through, if it changes pricing, we'll get a change order from Underwood.
What I just wanted to be sure was that all of this has been communicated to the Conservation Commission, and I'm more than happy to sit down and talk to them, but I just don't want to have any appeals during the appeal period.
Right.
I just want us to stay on track.
Yeah, I have not spoken to the chairman of the Conservation Commission at all. I did let Chip know the day it came in as well. And they have a meeting this
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
And I would say, if you want to come in and talk to us about it, fine, we're in our 30-day appeal period. I just want to keep our contract on track. But I'm more than happy to talk about it.
But we're still at the grant we're trying for too, so we don't want to solve that.
Well, it's just, we now have a permit and we have a contractor, and we will lose our window of construction.
we're still looking at the box culvert for the grant, right?
That's my concern. I don't want us to get off track and lose a construction season.
Well, we shouldn't. When are we supposed to hear about that?
May 15th.
May 15th, we'll have a better idea if that's even gonna happen.
Well, that's within our appeal period.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, I just want to keep the communication going. I don't want to have appeals filed just for appeals. I want us to keep talking and get the right answer in place, whatever that right answer is.
Yeah, I agree with that. One other issue on Willowbrook, there's some potholes down there. I've had just one resident
Yeah. Do
say.
you know when, has he told you said he was gonna start?
Yeah, but these potholes are pretty bad,
Yeah.
Paul, even if you threw,
I gotta go down there tomorrow, so I'll
All
put
right.
a couple bags of
Yeah,
patch in there,
that'd
just
be
hit those
good.
big holes.
yeah.
Yeah, because the pre-con meeting was just waiting, they set out their schedule that they gave us, but not, everything was on hold till this permit came through.
And again, I don't want to go any further than that. I just want to stay on track.
Yeah.
I don't want us to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. That's what I don't want.
Okay, I got a question for the board. This is a sore subject. If I fix up the damage at the park across from the church, I do it almost every year, those people tear it up by parking on it. They've broken a couple heads because of the weight of the cars.
Who's those people?
The
People
church.
that park in front of the Congregational Church.
Oh,
They literally
Private
park
gazebo.
on the lawn.
Oh,
I even seen one person park on the flower bed. Literally in the bed.
right.
My question is, if I spend the time and money, loom it again, seed it, can I put up no parking signs, or am I gonna raise too much trouble?
Can
Can we gravel?
Can we
gravel around
actually just communicate through the church council so that they handle it within?
I-
Get to their parishioners to say, please respect the lawn?
it? Won't happen.
I'm terrible with names.
We have
Fellows?
even put,
Fellows is the pastor. of-
Right.
right, we put
He's
those
come out and
reflective
talked to
things and
me,
they've
he
knocked
doesn't
them
want
down.
people parking there.
Right.
well, he could say something during the sermon.
But
You sure, certainly, he can do
Actually,
that.
I think we may wanna look at no parking on this side of the road. Because I've been there a couple times, the fire truck couldn't go down the road, they had to go down and around.
because they park on both sides.
Both sides of the
One
road.
side should be no parking, and if we do that on the park side, let them park on the other side, that eliminates that
Well,
type of
If it's a
situation.
safety problem, then, yeah, we could,
It's happened in the past with the older trucks, which are smaller than what we got now. I have had to go around the park and up Post Road. And that's kind of a pain with heavy traffic, but.
Where else can I park?
What?
Where else can I park
they
conveniently?
just have to park up the road, they're just gonna have to walk further.
Just gonna have to walk, right?
They got some parking there that they can designate for the.
That's why I said it's gonna be an ugly
Right.
sore situation, but they break their heads. I mean, they literally park entire cars on
Yeah,
the lawn.
Yeah,
Everybody's seen it,
Right now there's a big mud, like,
because they keep on hitting that same sprinkler head.
okay. If it's a safety issue, I don't have a problem, even with the Board of Selectmen writing a letter to the pastor saying,
Yeah.
we're,
Yeah, they've got a council that,
yeah.
yeah,
I
think that's a good way to
absolutely
start.
love to give
Yeah.
them a
Letter.
chance to fix
Yeah.
it within the church
right.
before we do anything untoward.
You what?
So can we please give the church a chance to fix it within their own group
Yeah, I
before we
agree.
do anything untoward?
Yeah, before we put up a no parking sign.
Well, no, I was saying, send a letter out saying there's a safety
Yeah.
issue and that.
We're only gonna allow parking on that same side as the church,
Yeah.
that side of the road.
Maybe just go with the safety issue, can you talk to the congregation about not parking there, and then take it the next step?
Yeah,
Right?
let them try to
In good
figure it out
faith.
themselves.
Yeah, and then if they can't get it done, then we step in and you can park here when hell freezes over sign.
Ooh, Chester,
Hey,
Chester.
hey, Chester.
Yeah, but one year, because we were dealing with that again, and Paul put out like the orange posts and cones.
And they park right on my dirt.
And they were just, they parked right on them.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like,
I just can't win down there.
How are the cannons coming?
They're all primed.
Okay,
Um,
they'll be ready for.
The primer, he says, he bought the primer, he says, his concern is because they were all linseed oiled all those years.
Mhm.
He thinks the oil is making the primer not stick.
Yeah.
I would think so.
Yeah, that would make
He
sense.
sanded the hell out of them Sunday.
What kind of primers are you using?
Yeah, little quarts, $140.
So he's using an oil primer?
He's using the best that would, he explained the type of wood and what it had, so this is what they recommended. But, he should have them all, he's gonna let the primer set for a couple days before he paints on it, so it really dry
As long
in.
as they're out there by Memorial Day.
He knows that.
All right, there isn't any ifs, ands, or
I
buts about it.
said, just give me a slip for all the materials, and I go, we'll get you the check.
Well, it's an oil, if that's an oil-based primer, it's gonna be that much.
But boy, it's gray, you should see it, it's beautiful gray, the whole finish
Good.
right now.
All right,
And he's gonna paint it black the way it was, and the cannons will be that matte black.
okay.
Okay, well, we've probably done enough to get us to next week, so accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Chester, Celtics score.
They lost,
They did they?
yes.
Yeah, Celtics are out. No,
No, 3-1.
Hey, no, the Bruins are out.
92,
Oh, they were terrible.
92 to
Oh,
104.
wait a minute.
Wow.
But as Liz was saying when she left, she goes, yeah, no, this was a throwaway game. They want to win it at home. So,
True. Well, the good thing, it's not like hockey where they're all beat up and bleeding. That back is, he was up, he didn't move a good 3-4 minutes last night.
no, I
He got hit
couldn't,
so hard, he
we
was,
were at my father-in-law's,
What am
so
I
I
doing
didn't
wrong
watch it.
I,
You erased it?
I wanted to change it so many times.
Stop.
That's,
It ain't stopping.
Not that one, no, no,
You go
no.
to the second
If he
one.
erased that, man, I don't want to be seeing Charlotte.
Go to the square.
I don't know who scares me more, her or Liz.
Well, it wouldn't do that with their
Yeah, I did a